The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Breaking Through Burnout. The Grow and Lead Wellness Committee of myself and Karen are very excited to be presenting today's topic. This is something that really interests us both personally and professionally, and we have a lot of really fun information. Today's webinar will be a half an hour. It is being recorded, and we will be sending the presentation slides along with a link to the recording and a link to a short evaluation this afternoon. So watch your email. That will be coming through sometime after lunchtime. So a little bit about us. We are Grow and Lead. We are a nonprofit organization that helps communities throughout the UP be a great place for kids to grow up. And we do that through working with the nonprofit sector. The more effective it is, the more services are available for youth to thrive, which is awesome. So we do things like training, consulting, membership facilitation. And when we as nonprofit professionals are taking care of ourselves and not burning out, we're able to provide better services to our clients and those that really need us. So thank you for taking the half an hour to prioritize yourself. We will be talking about prioritization a little bit later in the webinar, but I applaud you all for taking the time out of your day to make sure that you're taking care of you. A little bit about upcoming webinars. We do have two more this month. This evening, actually, at 6 o'clock, will be the board and staff relationship. And next week at 6 o'clock will be strategic planning. So these two webinars are focused more towards board members, but anyone is welcome to join and learn more. This is part of our Board Development Month series. So we've had two great ones already, and we have two more coming up. The rest of our webinars will be scheduled soon and announced before February. So if you have ideas for what topics you'd like covered, be sure to take that evaluation that I'm sending out this afternoon, because we use that to help us craft our webinar schedule. So here we are. We are the Grow and Lead Wellness Committee. Right now you hear me. I am Victoria. My favorite ways to avoid burnout are yoga and my gratitude journal. And I'd like to welcome Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi, everyone. Hi. We are a small but mighty wellness committee. I'm Karen, and I've really gotten into bullet journaling new this year, and so I'm excited about that. And I also like to get to the gym. That helps me with burnout. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. So as you know, today we're talking about burnout. According to the journal Nonprofit Quarterly, burnout rates in nonprofits have increased the last few years from 16% to 19% of staff. And that is even more pronounced in organizations that are doing direct-to-consumer service work. Compassion Points did a study that found 34% of executive directors and half of development directors at nonprofits questioned anticipating leaving their current jobs in 2 years or less. The 2017 Nonprofit Employment Practices Study, published by GuideStar and Nonprofit HR, found 81% of nonprofits have no retention strategies whatsoever, even though a lot of these strategies are common in for-profit corporations. So these are just a few quick statistics that I found that show the importance of recognizing and mitigating burnout in your organization. So what exactly is burnout? According to the Mayo Clinic, job burnout is a state of physical, emotional, or mental exhaustion combined with doubts about one's competence and work value. Burnout is not a medical diagnosis, but can have medical impacts, as Karen will share a little bit later in the presentation. When suffering from burnout, there can be a sense of reduced accomplishment and a loss of personal identity. Karen will now tell us a little bit more about what burnout looks like.
Yeah, burnout kind of looks like that big fluffy bear there on the ice. You may think burnout symptoms are different among the various groups in your organization, but some symptoms can actually look very much the same across volunteers, staff, and board members. Some of the symptoms are very cyclical. Like, for example, you know you have a ton of work, but you just can't seem to kind of get started on it, which stresses you out, and then you get a headache. So let's take a look at burnout by group and what that can look like. There are some differences between the groups. Volunteers typically have a very specific task, so they might worry about who's going to do their job if they're not there, and they may lose patience with clients, and they get kind of cranky sometimes with their other volunteers. And as far as staff, it seems ironic, but staff can be highly engaged, but also suffer from burnout. A recent study conducted by the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence stated that 1 in 5 employees reported both high engagement and high burnout. These workers, they were passionate about their work, but they also had intensely mixed feelings, reporting high levels of interest, stress, and frustration. CEOs and other leaders, they may again experience similar symptoms as volunteers and staff, but they have a different level of responsibility in their organization. They have fewer peers to vent frustration and can feel more isolated. Burnout signs include a lack of patience with staff. They may have trouble making decisions and have the inability to change course for their organization when it's needed. They can be more susceptible to burnout if their own sense of who they are is tied to their work. And that's true with a lot of leaders. Signs of board suffering from burnout include a small group of people who are doing most of the work of the board. If you're failing to meet a quorum, to have a quorum for your meetings, and struggling to maintain talent on the board. These are all signs to pay attention to, both in yourself and those around you. Ignoring burnout can have significant consequences. Left long enough, it makes you vulnerable to some pretty serious illnesses. And according to the Mayo Clinic, job burnout is a specific type of work-related stress, but it isn't classified as a medical diagnosis. But you can see that it can affect your physical and your mental health. On the business side, some other consequences are, decreased production. You've got higher absenteeism, higher turnover. Burnout has a lot of negative consequences that can impact your bottom line. But the good news is you can recover from burnout, and it is preventable. So I'm going to turn it back to Victoria, and she's going to talk a little bit more about combating burnout.
Thank you, Karen. After hearing the different things to look for, I know I can identify some of the indicators of burnout in myself and in other people that I work with in different capacities. So it's great to have kind of that list. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. That was great. So now we're going to talk more about what we can do. Like I said, I noticed some signs in myself, and I'm sure others have noticed them too. So we're going to look at a whole bunch of different ways that you can combat burnout. First up, we're going to talk about debriefing. Debriefing is an act of reflection. One form of debriefing that is useful, especially after stressful group activities, is to look back at the experience and discuss what went well, identify opportunities for improvement, and determine if anything should be eliminated. One version of this debriefing model that has become frequently used is the plus delta debrief. For each topic, you would discuss the plus, what went well, and what will be kept, and the deltas, what didn't go well and should be changed or eliminated. If you don't have a team environment, find a community. It could be a group of people in a position similar to yours, friends, a counselor, or a coach. Having a community to discuss what's happening can be helpful in both your debriefing and getting feedback from someone outside of the situation. And finally, journaling. Journaling is a great way to debrief if you don't want to share your thoughts with others. There are many forms that a journal can take, such as a gratitude journal, where you write down things that you're grateful for, an emotional response journal, where you write to process how you're feeling, or like Karen mentioned earlier, the bullet journal, which can be used to track goals and plans. Next up, we have mindfulness. Now, I'm sure you've heard the word mindfulness. It's been very popular in the last few years. And what mindfulness means at its most basic level is to be attentive to your thoughts, emotions, and surroundings as they exist in the moment. Being in the moment entails avoiding your past problems. You're not worrying about your future problems, and you are not distracted from your present problems. You are in the moment. So, how can we practice mindfulness both inside and out of the workplace? First, a very easy mindfulness activity that you can implement is focus on breathing. This is a great thing to do when you're starting to feel stressed or overwhelmed. The breathing exercise that I tend to remember is square breathing, which I've demonstrated graphically on this slide. So you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold your inhale for 4 seconds, then you hold your breath for 4 seconds, then you exhale it all out over 4 seconds, and then you pause again for 4 seconds before you inhale. And you do this about 5 times, and you'll just kind of feel your breath and the things that you're worrying about float away, and you really center and are present on the moment. Next up is something that I've recently started doing this year, and it's having a morning routine. So with a morning routine, you wake up to enjoy, not wake up to rush out the door. By having this thing that you're looking forward to doing in the morning, you start your day on a positive note with something joyful instead of getting up on a negative note, feeling rushed and like I just need to get to work or to school or wherever you're going. So, morning routine. Meditation. So, the Harvard Business Review compiled a bunch of studies that showed meditation builds resilience, boosts emotional intelligence, enhances creativity, improves relationships, and helps you focus. So, meditation has a lot of great benefits. Some communities have free meditation groups, while other communities you may have to go to a class at a yoga studio or a meditation studio. If you're not quite sure that you want to jump into meditating with people right off the bat, there are a number of apps like Calm, Headspace, and Insight Timer that offer free or low-cost meditations that you can do at any time. And finally, openness, patience, and no judgment. These are skills that go along with mindfulness. Increasing these skills can help reduce stress by staying in the moment and not worrying about what's happening around you. Taking time away, like for real. If you're a paid staff member and you go on vacation, or you're a volunteer or board member, don't check your email while you're away. Don't take phone calls while you're away. Make it a time when you are away for real. You can also, if you're a volunteer or a board member and you're really suffering from burnout, consider taking a leave of absence. Step away for a month or 2 months to get back to yourself, and then step back when you're re-energized and reinvigorated. And that's why I love term limits for boards, just to throw that in there. If your board doesn't have term limits, I highly recommend putting some in because it allows people to gracefully step away if they are burnt out without feeling they need to take a leave of absence or they need to resign. They know that their term is 2 years or 3 years, and after that they can, gracefully back out, take a year off, and then come back to your board. Second, put it on your calendar now. I love this because so often we say, I'm going to take time off, but then things get scheduled for the time that you're looking at and things get busy and you're like, oh, maybe I don't want to take time away. So when you schedule it now, for the entire year, it's there, it's on your calendar. You know that you can work around those times that you plan to be away from volunteering or your board or your job. And then schedule intentionally. If you have a big event, a stressful grant deadline, an office move, something big that you know is coming up, consider taking time away after that for recovery. Don't schedule your time off 3 days before it when you know things are going to be a hurricane. So make sure you're being really intentional at looking at your schedule when you do take time away, but do it. It's great for you. Make the work human. Remember, the work you do is so important. You're helping to shape your community. It's easy to get caught up in your mission and forget the individuals that you're impacting. Consider adding a mission moment to staff, volunteer, and or board meetings. Mission moments are short, real-life examples of how your organization is making a difference. I encourage people to think about not just having one mission moment that one person shares, but having everyone share a mission moment because everyone should have some story on how the work has impacted a client or themselves. By sharing these stories, you're centering your work through a new perspective. Give gratitude and accept gratitude. Let someone know that you're grateful for their work, their passion, their ability to get things done, their presence. There are so many reasons that you can share gratitude. It's equally important to accept gratitude. And I know this is one that personally I struggle with. It's so easy to blow it off and be like, oh, it's nothing. It was my job. No big deal. But don't discount your existence and the work that you're doing. Acknowledge that you've made a difference to someone, no matter how big or small, and accept that gratitude that they give. Have communal meals. This can be all staff together, a volunteer appreciation meal, a board meal, a meal with your clients if that's appropriate. There's just something about sitting around a table and having food together. It allows for informal communication and gives an opportunity to get to know each other on a personal level. And finally, have a Tada Board. You can see our Tada Board that we put up just this Tuesday as a fun way to track our small but exciting accomplishments that we'll be making during the year. So many times the little things you get excited about. Hopefully you're celebrating your small wins. But come the end of the year, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I did good this year. And those small wins, although you have a lot of them, can easily be forgotten. So the Tada Board is a great way to visualize all of the great things that have been happening. They can be things your volunteers have done. They can be things that your staff has done. And you can even make a Tada Board for your board of directors. Physical activity. Get up and get moving. There is tons of research on how physical activity plays a role in stress reduction. A few ways you can incorporate physical activity into your work. First, walking meetings. So if there aren't documents that need to be reviewed, and you don't need to take minutes or anything like that, get up and walk around while you talk. Have you heard the saying, sitting is the new smoking? Standing more can also be a way to, although it's a small movement, increase how active you're being throughout the day. Standing desks are a really great option. I made my own standing desk out of a case of paper box. And so I just put the box under my laptop and it's the perfect height for me to stand. So even if a standing desk isn't in your budget, there are options that you can kind of either build something yourself or try it out with a box to see how you feel. I also moved my phone to an area where I can't sit when I talk on it. So every time my phone rings, I have to get up, walk over to it, and stand until I get off the phone. So just little tweaks to the way your space is laid out can help you get up and get moving, although just a little bit. Every little bit counts, right? Yoga and stretching. So there are yoga poses or different stretches that can be modified to be done in a chair. So if you have a desk job, you can go on YouTube, type in chair yoga, and there are so many free videos showing you how to do different yoga positions or stretching with a chair. And finally, the good old wearable fitness tracker challenge. So this works great if you're in an office or you volunteer at a place where there are a lot of people that have wearables. There are 3 of us here at Grow and Lead, actually 4 of us that have wearables, and we will challenge each other to see who can get the most steps per day. If steps per day aren't a thing that you want to track, there's also a way to set it up to be a goal challenge. So everyone inputs their own goals. And then if you hit your goal that day, you get credit, and it's a competition for who can hit the goal amount instead of total amount. And it's so funny. You can tell when we have a challenge because people just move around a lot more and they're really conscious of, oh man, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I only have 2,500 steps, and it's advised that you should be getting 10,000 a day. I've got some work to do. If you're not in a environment that has a lot of people with fitness trackers, you can have challenges with your friends. Maybe that's something, if you guys all have Fitbits, we could start like a nonprofit challenge. That would be really fun, where we could have just all the nonprofit people competing against each other. Finally, prioritization. So you're here. I know who's all on here. I know you all have a ton on your plates. If you didn't, you wouldn't be like worried about these things, right? So learning to prioritize is a key to finding balance in your work. Be realistic when you take something on. It's okay to say no to some things. If you can't take on a project, pass on it. If it's a project you can't pass on, delegate where you can. If you are a staff of 1, lean on your board and volunteers. If you have coworkers, they're another great place to look for help. But make sure that you have specific tasks when you delegate. Don't just be like, I need help with this project. It's, I need help with this project. Can you make 10 photocopies of this packet for me? So those very specific tasks really help with delegation. Remember, the people you could be working with also may be suffering from burnout. So if that's the case, look at new ways you can do things. Maybe it's forming a new committee, evaluating if this program that you're working on should exist and needs to exist, or could exist in a different way. And finally, explore new ways to do things so that they take less time. Plan ahead. If you know you have something big happening, put it on your calendar right away. Have goals and deadlines that you're working towards. When you break something down into actionable tasks, it makes things less daunting and more manageable. There are some great online resources like Asana or Trello or Smartsheet that can help you put together plans and then assign things to different people. So delegation and planning in the same app. They're great. So look into that if you do a lot of project management, project planning. Eliminating time wasters. If there's no reason to do something, why are we doing it? Get rid of that meeting that doesn't have an intention. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb when you're working on a project. Close out your email for an hour or 2, and then answer all your email at one time. And if you have a door, you can close it to signify that you shouldn't be interrupted until you're done with this task. And finally, learn about the 5-second rule. So I just added this one because I'm reading the book, and it's just really neat. This rule helps you get out of a funk when you're procrastinating or wasting time. It's the theory of counting down from 5 and then physically taking action when you have an idea. The book is by Mel Robbins. I'm only like halfway through, but from what I've read and what I've started practicing, it's been awesome. So I've been using it to help me with water. I'm terrible at drinking water. So every time I'm sitting there and I'm thirsty, I count down from 5 to 0, and then I get up and fill up my water container. So there's all different kinds of ways that you can use it. All right, so that's what we've got for combating burnout. We did want to talk about a few resources that we love. First, Happy Healthy Nonprofit is a book. Beth Cantor is one of the authors. I can't remember the other woman's name. We have a copy here. I'm almost done reading it. I've been reading it for like a year and a half, but it's really, really good. It's really, really science-based. So if you're interested in the science of burnout and some of the science behind the things that we talked about, this is the book for you. She also has an online burnout assessment tool. Her website is happyhealthynonprofit.wordpress.com, and you can download the assessment and take it for yourself. And there's 5 or 6 areas of burnout that she's identified, and you can see which areas you need to improve. There's a podcast that both Karen and I listen to. It's where we got the idea for the Tada Board, and it's Happier with Gretchen Rubin. If you don't know how to access podcasts, feel free to reach out to Karen or I, and we can help you get it set up on your phone or computer or even your Kindle Fire. That's what my mom listens to podcasts through. So there's all different kinds of ways to access podcast content. When we talked about meditation apps, the one that I use is Insight Timer. I really love it. They have a paid and free subscription model. I use the free plan. There's like over 3,000 free meditations, and then there's also classes, and that's what you pay for. If you wanted to take a class on meditating for sleep, then it's got like a curriculum, and so you can pay to access that. When we talked about wearables, here in our office, we're using Fitbit. We find Fitbit to be awesome. We really enjoy the challenges, like I said. And then the book I referenced was The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. It's a really great read. And I did just want to mention that we are not paid endorsers or anything of these resources. These are things that we are just using in our everyday lives and really love. So, I hope that you'll kind of find some resources that are helpful to you, and maybe you'll have your own resources we love list in your wellness committee after listening to this. And that is all we've got. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening to today's webinar on burnout. I hope there's some things that you can implement in your work or personal life. And we would definitely be interested in hearing if you do add something to your work, or there's things that you're doing that we didn't cover. So I'll make sure when I send this out that I will copy Karen on it. So we'd be happy to have a dialogue with you via email or in person if there are questions that you have, or things that you'd want to chat about. Karen, do you have anything to add?
No, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us. Oh, the one you had mentioned, Asana, and some of the project-based platforms, and I believe a lot of those have free versions. Is that correct?
Yes, and a number of them have been added to TechSoup as of recent. So if you are a 501c3 and you're not on TechSoup, that is something that you definitely should get signed up for. There are a lot of great online subscriptions that you can access at free or low cost through TechSoup.
Great. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you for attending, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a good day.